Hi, I'm Bob Trask, and this is our weekly reset. We come together every week to make sure that every part of us is functioning in coordination with every other part of us. What do I mean by that? We are spiritual beings, we're intellectual beings, we're emotional beings, and we're physical beings. And when all those are operating in harmony, then things go really well in our lives. When any one of those gets out of sorts or becomes dysfunctional or stops harmonizing with the other parts, then our lives begin to sort of stagger and stumble. So, what we're doing here every week is getting all that together. We're taking step each week, 52 weeks in a year, 52 big steps in a year. So we learn on Sunday or whenever you watch this, and then we practice it for the rest of the week, and our lives change for the better, and we become more joyful. So thank you for being with me. And today we're talking about your value to this world, your value to this world. You know, it's easy for us to forget that we have value, individual value. we've we've sort of learned that our value to the world, we get that by feedback. If I have value, then people give me good feedback. I can see that I have more friends now, or that I got complimented because of something I did or something I said. And all of that goes on and on. And it all becomes about doing and having. Those are the ways that we find our value in doing, our value in having. But before that, there's a value in being. And you can't create that. That happened before your birth, before your birth into this planet. Because you've always been and always will be you, the only you that ever has been created or ever will be created. Because in fact, your body is being created as every day goes by. Your body's being created, like 360 billion cells getting replaced every single day, and your blood coursing through thousands and thousands and thousands of miles of blood vessels every day. That miracle happens every day. So your body's being created, but you were not created. You always were. And you were always unique. And you were always beautiful. And when we forget that, when we see our value is in pleasing somebody, maybe a mate, or maybe a neighbor, or maybe someone that you're fond of, or maybe just society as the whole. When my value is in being pleasing to them, so that I can get feedback from them about how wonderful I am or how cool I am, then I forget about what my true value is. Everything we think, everything we feel, everything we say, everything we write, in fact, every action we take is because of our beliefs and our values, our perceived beliefs and our perceived values. Whether or not we're aware of it, our values shape our lives, or our perceived values shape our lives, one of the two. So if somebody values money over happiness, I mean, that's a perceived value. They value money over who they really are. So the value of themselves, because the value is them being wealthy or having money or having stuff. And you might have a bank account that's fat, and you might have a lot of expensive stuff, but will you have joy? No, I'm not really talking so much about happiness. I'm talking about joy. I'm talking about that platform, that basic foundation. You know it. You know what I'm talking about. You've been there. You're there maybe now. Maybe you get there often. Maybe you haven't been there for years. I don't know. But it's that sense of all is well and I am perfect where I am, as I am, who I am. And it feels good to me to just be alive in this moment. So that's the self-value. That's the self-value. Values are really important because they give us a sense of purpose. You know, we came onto this planet with a mission. Now, I want to be real careful about that because I've said that before and I've said it in different ways. You came on this planet with a mission, came on this planet with a purpose. You're here to unfold something that couldn't be unfolded without you. And it all sounds like obligation. It all sounds like duty, like obligation. Like if I don't get it done, oh my God, the world will fall apart. No, it won't. No, it won't. You'll just come back and do it again and again until you get it done. It's not a big deal. But the thing of it is that when you are in your value, when you are unfolding that thing, which is your life's purpose. And incidentally, let me interrupt myself just for a minute and say some of us on this call, some of us watching are older people, some of us in our 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. You might think I've done it. I started a business. I become financially well off. I wrote some books. I got published. I sang in the opera. Well, whatever. I raised kids. Whatever that was. I'm done. You're not done. You're not even close to done because your value is still there inside of you as a golden vibrating platform of energy and beauty calling out to you, express me in your life. And as you express that value in your life, then the world around you changes at any age. At any age. We were talking this morning to dear Ellen Kassler, who's 96 years old, I believe, and she was talking to us about the beauty of life and the beauty of what she feels, and her value came out to us and touched all of us. So values provide meaning, they provide fulfillment. But can values be lost? Can you be born with a value and then it gets torn away from you and it's gone? Jeremy Anderson, a wonderful motivational speaker, described personal value as a dollar bill. So you take a dollar bill, 6 inches long, dollar bill, and he's in this video, he crumples this dollar bill. He says, how much is this dollar bill worth? And everybody says $1. He said, this is worth $1. This piece of paper is worth $1. They said, yes. He said, okay. And he crumples it up and he wads it up until it's a little ball. And he says, now how much is it worth? Everybody says $1. He looks a little taken aback. He takes it now and he just really wads it up, puts it on the floor, and he stomps on it with his foot, and he picks it up, and it's just mangled. And he said, now how much is it worth? Everybody says $1. He says, okay. Then he pulls it apart, and he tears it in half, and he says, now how much is it worth? Everybody says $1. Somebody says, you can just tape it back together. It's still worth $1. The message that he's getting at is it doesn't matter how many times you've been crumpled or torn, your value is still your value. You still have the same value. And honoring that value gives you a purpose for being here, gives you a purpose for living. So what is personal value? Is it being dependable for other people? Like I want to take care of my value is to make sure that I'm in service to everybody and I take care of everybody. Is it being well organized? Let me get this stuff organized and this stuff put in place, and let me get this handled and this handled. Is that your value? Or maybe your value is to be thoroughly informed. You gather information, get me lots of information so I can be really informed. Is that your value? How about having boatloads of friends, just lots and lots of friends? People love you and you love people. Is that your value? No, none of these are your personal values, nor are they mine. We're only acting a part that'll make us feel acceptable and make us feel that we belong. None of those are who you are or who I am. And if we're to be authentic, we need to be much more than our behavior, much more than what we do. That's authenticity. Your personal value, the guiding principle that would shape your life, your thoughts, your beliefs, your behaviors, is the self you were born with, the self you were born here to be. It is your purpose for being on this planet at this time. Instead of what you and I are doing, how about what you and I are being? Because otherwise, our doing this is just creating false selves in order to either please the community or reject our community. And your authentic self is driving your decision making and determining what is important in your life. That comes from your sense of value. That comes from you remembering the bottom line of who you are. Your work, your doingness, whatever that is, needs to be a reflection of your values. I was an extra on a movie one time, and Sidney Poitier was the lead actor. And Sidney Poitier at lunch break said to me, "You want to go to lunch?" And I said, "Well," and of course we were on set, so the meal was all laid out there. And I said, "Sure." So we went down the street in San Francisco to a little restaurant, and with two or three of us there, and we sat and had lunch with Sidney Poitier. Was just a beautiful lunch, and he was just kind and sweet and gentle, and he was not a big shot, and he was not this big wealthy hot dog actor. He was just Sidney. And he said, "I had chosen to use my work as a reflection of my values. I had chosen to use my work as a reflection of my values." Isn't that what we're talking about here today? Is what we are doing this. If our doing this is not a reflection of our values, then it's artificial. It's not authentic. If in our relationships we share our values openly, we find that others with those same values are drawn to us, and they may soon become trusted friends. But when our values don't align with others, our relationships then become challenging, don't they? John Wooden said good values are like magnets. They attract good people. Good values are like magnets. They attract good people. So to have more meaningful and satisfying relationships, I can attract good people to me through my good values, if in fact my good values reflect what I do and what I have. So here's my being over here, being in my values, and letting my doingness come from my values, and letting my havingness come from those good doing, those good deeds, that good doingness. People who are authentic, who know their values, automatically practice self-awareness and mindfulness. And they surround themselves with people who share their values. They contribute to causes they believe in. They contribute to causes they believe in. They're aware constantly that being authentic is their is their authenticity in the world, their value to the world. Okay, so here you are, being authentic and doing only what aligns with your authentic values. But how about wealth then? How about health? How about accomplishments? So you're just flowing along, being your authentic self and doing what aligns with your values. But there's other people around you and they want things, they expect things. So how about me having wealth and health and accomplishments? Is just feeling happy and peaceful and valuable within myself ever going to accomplish anything? And the answer is a profound yes. Because the way things get accomplished in our universe is through four forces. Through four forces. This is scientifically so. The magnetic force, the gravitational force, the weak force, and the strong force. Those are the forces, the detectable forces in the universe that make things happen. And what do all those forces have in common with one another? They are all elements of the great creative power. Notice I called those forces. Now I'm talking about power. They're all elements of the great creative power that we call grace, the mothership of all forces and powers in the universe, in all universes. Grace. Then, if our authentic personal value is in alignment with grace, in alignment with that, with what I felt as a child before I got taught to be different, like when you were 3 years old, if you can just go back there in your mind when you were 3 years old, this sweet little girl or sweet little boy, and no one had screwed with your head. You were just this beautiful little precious kid, and you had this value, and it was beaming out of you all the time, and you were in constant curiosity. Why were you in curiosity? Because the world was unfolding around you. Listen to me, as you. It was unfolding around you as you. Because the platform of value, that platform of who you were, was hungry to bring the rest of the universe in because were becoming one with the universe. If you saw a little ladybug on a leaf, oh, you were taken away. There was nothing else in the world but that little ladybug on the leaf. And the colors, the red with the little black spots, and it crawling along, and the leaf it was crawling on, and the color of the leaf, and without you actually thinking about it, what was in focus or out of focus beyond that, the sky, the garden, the land, all of that was coming into you, becoming you. You were open to the world. You were valuable because you were, not because you did, but because you were. Those things I mentioned, wealth, health, relationships, creativity, and career, they're all being handled by grace. If we allow it, the power of the universe, the power that's mine when I'm being my authentic, valuable self. Life is made easy and fun. Instead of fighting the river of life, we're flowing with it. We don't even feel its movements, pushing past us, rushing past us, because we're one with the river of grace. We're one with grace itself when we're in our power, when we're in our value. So in our society, I mean, all these people go to church and they worship God. Well, I don't know that they worship God. They spend an hour and a half in church, but they spend 40 to 50 hours a week worshiping money, going after money. And so money is everything. I mean, if you can become wealthy, then you can be free. And if I can get wealthy enough, then I can be valuable. But what if I was valuable first? Then wouldn't wealth just come to me? I don't know. I don't know. I had a really good friend whose name was Leo, and he was wealthy. He dreamed of cars, and he had bought every vintage car you could imagine. And he had them all in this great underground parking. Beautiful, beautiful cars. Old, you know, the the best of the best. And his those were his core values: to be wealthy, to have stuff. When he was a boy, Leo sold peanuts at the baseball games on weekends. He lived in a small town in Oregon, and they had a little baseball team there. And the baseball team played other baseball teams, and he sold peanuts, and he could buy the peanuts for maybe 5 cents a bag. He sold them for 10 cents a bag. And he told me that in those days, he kept a log where he made a mark every time he sold a bag of peanuts. Every time he sold a dime bag of peanuts, he made a mark in that book. 11 bags meant 11 dimes and 11 marks in his book. He measured himself by the number of marks in his book. He was in his 70s when he was telling me this, and his eyes still lit up, remembering those precious marks. Leo had become an attorney, and eventually he owned a slew of office buildings and apartment buildings and his fleet of cars. I asked Leo if he ever drove those cars, and he said, "No, no, no, God, I'm gonna take him out of the underground, out on the street, might get hit or scratched and bumped, and not only that, but they get dirty, and then I have to hire somebody to go back and detail it again. No, I don't. No, I don't drive them. He has them. That's having. That's doing, so I can have. I'm. I just wonder before I go on if you and I have a little book somewhere inside of our minds where we make marks that tell us who we are, tell us how valuable we are. Leo's cars and buildings and bank accounts and cars were all just marks on his logbook. They were his value. They were his value in life and his value to the world. Relationships were not his value. He was often quite lonely. Health sure wasn't his value. He went blind at an early age and he suffered with cancer for years. His marriages were a long ways from being agreeable, but he was trapped because he didn't know how to have value unless it had to do with gaining more marks in his logbook. Roy T. Bennett said, "Your value creates your internal compass that navigates how you make decisions in your life." So just think with me on that. Your value creates your internal compass that navigates how you make decisions in your life. That means that if my value is one with grace, if my value is one with the eternal presence of what some people call God, if my value is one with that, then my needs are met. My needs are met. All I have to do is keep doing from my value, from who I am, and I'm one with grace, and I'm one with the power of the universe. What if Leo's values had been formed by grace? What's the true nature of wealth and health and relationships and creativity and spirituality and adventure? Isn't it true that the flow of love, of grace, would have given him his wealth, health, relationships, and a sense of being truly valuable to his work, his world, without making all of that fuss? And he'd be living a life of pure joy instead of being unhealthy and lonely? And what about me and what about you? What are our core values? Don't you think that in order to be authentic today, this day, we should know these? Shouldn't we be able to just answer that question quickly because we're living our personal authentic values every day? So if I ask you, what are your values? Shouldn't you just be able to just tell me? Because that's the core of you. That's the base of you. Shouldn't I just be able to just tell you right now? And if I can't, then maybe I need to take a minute and sit down with pen and paper and start writing down and scratching out and writing down and scratching out till I get to the bottom line of, well, who am I really here? What are my values? And when I know my values, then I know my purpose automatically because they're the same thing. When I know my values, I know my purpose. So we want to get up every morning and go through our days thinking about how being authentic and living our values in all we do might touch the world around us. And our value then is the same as our divine purpose. And our divine purpose is being fulfilled when we're living our values. Oh, wonderful. If I asked Leo what his divine purpose or value was, he wouldn't know what I was even talking about, would he? His purpose was making money, period, period, period. So my chief value is maybe flowing in spiritual oneness with my world. Would that be yours? Flowing in spiritual oneness with your world? And might not that seem a little selfish? Because you'd be looking to just do what makes you happy every day? If the goodness flowing into you and the goodness flowing out of you would be flowing in and out through your values, and you'd be valuable to your world. Shoshana Zuboff said, life is good when you live from your roots. Your values are a critical source of energy, enthusiasm, and direction. Work is meaningful and fun when it's an expression of your true core. So, my friend, my dear, dear friend, I'm over here, little me, little Bob, asking you to come out and play, asking you to please come out and play with me. You, the real you, not who you have at times had to pretend to be in order to get along with people. The masks that you've had to wear, the dances that you've had to do to make people like you or be able to get a job or hold a job or be noticed or appreciated by your family. I'm telling you that who you were born to be, that little 3-year-old kid, that's the one I want to know. That's who you are. That's who you always have been and always will be. Your body was born. Your body will die. But you were never born. You will never die. You are you for eternity. And why would we waste these valuable 100 years on planet Earth pretending to be other than who we are, when in fact, this is paradise? I have a picture in my mind of somebody going up to the pearly gates and Peter saying, yeah, what do you want? And they said, well, I want to get into heaven. And he said, what a jerk you are. You just left heaven. If we can be in our value and live authentically and trust that beautiful self that we are, trust that we are already whole, perfect, and complete. We can just trust that. Oh man, life gets so beautiful. Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. And I want to end today with a quote from my dear Mark Twain, who said the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why. Today, let's find out why. Today, let's take a minute and find out why, who we really are. Because you are so precious so blessed, so loved. But have you found that? Have you allowed that to come into you? Do you realize that you're surrounded right now with grace, with the divine, intelligent presence of eternity right now? You're surrounded as though it's a warm fog around you, holding you, embracing you. The you, the real you, the real you. I am so honored that you came to spend the time with me. Thank you. If you have a minute, would you go by bobtrask.com and leave a donation to help me keep these weekly resets going and also to do my work in the world? It'll go a long ways toward helping a lot of people. Thank you. I appreciate you. If you can stick around for a little while, there's going to be a few of us that are going to be discussing the topic today and also maybe talking about some other things. So we'd love to have you. But if you have to go, hey, I understand. Go with peace, go with my love, and I'll see you next week.